Mayor, we are recording. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, the 7 o'clock has come. It is time to commence our city council meeting for October 6th. I am Scott Bracken. I am the mayor pro tem. Mayor Peterson is out of town tonight, and so I will be conducting the meeting as the mayor pro tem. The first item is I need to read a determination considering a anchor location for this meeting so that we can hold it electronically. So I will read that now. Pursuant to Utah Code annotated 52-4-207 sub 4, the city's mayor, as the chair of the city council, hereby determines that conducting the meeting of the city council on this date and at an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. It is well recognized that a global pandemic currently exists related to the COVID-19 coronavirus, which has the potential to overwhelm Utah's healthcare system. Therefore, due to the state of emergency caused by the global pandemic, I find that conducting a meeting at an anchor location under the current state of public health emergency constitutes a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the location. Therefore, we are having this meeting on Zoom as we have had for the last few months. I hope everyone is feeling well, and we'll look forward to the mayor's return at our next meeting in 2 weeks. I don't believe there are any other specific acknowledgements that need to be made. I've asked Councilmember Michael if she would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. As usual, we have the next item on the agenda is a time for citizen comments. Those that are on the attendees list, if you wish to speak, just locate a place where you can raise your hand. That will let our recorder know to admit you. Also, we have 2 other items of public comment tonight. If your comments are in reference to either the outdoor lighting ordinance or the rezone of property on Highland Drive, would ask that you would wait until we go to those public comment periods for your comments. If your comments are for any other item, we will entertain those now. I also asked for those that are viewing, we're hoping that those who are commenting are able to see the screen. Our city manager has made some time cards to give those speaking an indication of about how much time they have left so that we can try to better adhere to the 3-minute limit, at least give you a chance to wrap up without having to be cut off. As always, feel free to say what you will. We ask that you be courteous and have decorum when at all possible. And with that being said, Paula, if you would let us know who is ready to have citizen comment.
Paula, you're muted.
Paula, you're muted. Oh.
Tim, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, can you guys hear me? Okay, cool. Hopefully we don't have the echo from last time. Okay, so tonight I wanted to talk about an environmental thing. I know we discussed in the past, or you guys have been openly discussing moving towards more environmentally friendly vehicles, specifically electric vehicles. You know, if we could wave a magic hand and everybody suddenly was driving an electric vehicle, that would be great for the environment. That'd be great for our atmosphere. But we don't have enough metals right now, enough precious metals to really do that. So we need interim steps. And one of the interim steps is what they call the dual fuel fleet, where you have trucks and cars that can run both on regular gas and then also on either propane or natural gas. And so I did some homework over the last couple of weeks on this and found that environmentally, propane in mass volumes really isn't that great of an improvement. It does reduce a couple of emissions, but it also increases some others. Natural gas, on the other hand, is tremendously much more environmentally friendly than regular gasoline vehicles. When you look out in the valley and you see, especially on, say, inversion days, you see a lot of smog. What that smog is not, it's not oxygen, it's not hydrogen, it's not CO, and it's not CO2. Those are all colorless and odorless. What it is a bunch of sulfates and nitrates and heavy metal gases, a lot of things that come out of butane and that kind of stuff. When you switch to, say, compressed natural gas or CNG, those things are reduced by 80%. So let me say that again. The stuff that you see on bad air days in the valley, we can reduce that by 80% by changing. Well, it'd be great 100% by changing it to electric, but we can't do that right now. But as an intermediate step, we can change that by going to compressed natural gas hybrid with regular gas vehicles. That option is actually available for all the police vehicles that we use. It's just an add-on. It costs about $7,000 per vehicle, but your fuel savings are about $4,000 over a 3-year period. So really it's about $3,000 per vehicle. I was just gonna suggest, if we wanna make a step in the right direction, maybe we could try it out on a couple trucks and see how it goes and see if that really does work. Because we have to go from old technology to new technology at some point. And speaking of old, and I'm not saying that the mayor is old, but when he was growing up, they didn't have cameras. But if you want to see pictures of him when he was growing up, you can go down to Moab and see the cave paintings. Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. All
I
right,
don't
do we
show
have
any other
anyone
hand.
else that wishes for comments?
I have Natalie Frisbee. Okay.
Yes, so this is Dan Prisbury and Natalie Prisbury. We live on East Bourne Circle, which is one of the catwalks that leads into the Butler Park and field there. We're one of the neighbors that has been struggling with the parking situation. So this has been an issue kind of on the where sorry, 1 second here. Where the streets in this particular circle are being used as basically a parking lot. And we understand that it's a public street, right? And we don't have problems when the public is using it. But when it's the organizational sports that are going on for soccer and for football, it causes issues where we'll have 50, 60 cars, basically every single night, and even on Saturdays, parking in our circle and all throughout the neighborhood. And it's kind of chaotic. I mean, they park in front of our driveways. They park, there's so many cars just in this small spot that it's not safe, for our kids. I mean, they're on both sides of the street where I can't even imagine a fire truck could even pull in sometimes. I mean, they're, for emergency vehicles, it's, again, we're not having issues with the public access, but it's for these organizational sports that causes this mass, parking situation. And I know Chief Russo is aware of the situation, and several neighbors have called and complained, about, the over parking. So I'm just wondering, what can be done to help this situation out.
I'm his wife, Natalie. I was just going to say something. Also, I understand if the parking lots were full, that there would be spillover into neighborhoods, but the lots are not full at this time. It's just people wanting to save a minute or two at most, walking. So it just seems it's just hard because it's I would say the biggest complaint is just the safety for pedestrians, cars, and emergency vehicles not even be able to access our street if something happened, or the streets. But there's obviously more foot traffic and automobile traffic in the area. So it slows everything down, and our kids aren't able to, we won't even let them walk over to their friend's house at that time because some cars are always parked, some cars are parked literally covering the sidewalk, or they can't ride their bikes. It's just, and there's so many blind spots created because they're parked literally at an angle on the corners sometimes. And again, the public use that happens all during the rest of the time, we don't mind the cars parked in there. It's only during the organizational sports period that it is causes so many safety hazards and problems. So, I mean, I get that they're public roads, but I would assume that the Burnham parking should be on the organization to provide ample parking, not the public streets if it's not a public event or usual use. But anyway, we're just kind of at a loss, and we are elected by our neighbors to be the first people kind of come forward and talk about it and see what options there are.
Okay, thank you for your comments. I believe I have your email, Natalie, and I'll respond to you or give you a call. I know we've discussed this slightly. So next on the line, Paula.
We have Ed Schwartz.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Ed.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to be offered some clarification. It's in reference to the September 2020 newsletter and the article by Councilmember Doug Peterson. And I'm not going to read the entire article. On page 3, Councilman Peterson wrote, "Reports from our police department indicate that they've never seen such an outpouring of community support. People are approaching our officers in the community to thank them personally and to let them know they're appreciated," which I think is great. One sergeant, now this is where I'd like some clarification from here on. One sergeant having dinner, his wife and 2 kids to celebrate their anniversary. At the end of their dinner, their tab had been picked up by another patron who apparently recognized him as a member of the CHPD. Now, this is where further clarifications are required. It has become quite common for citizens to pay for lunch or breakfast for officers dining at the same location as their benefactors. This kind of generosity and kindness to those who put their lives on the line every day is the Cottonwood Heights I know. Well, the Cottonwood Heights I know is probably the same as you, Councilman Peterson, but I'm wondering why, is this part of being a police officer in the town that they get free lunch and free breakfast from the restaurants and other areas? That's all. I'd like some clarification, because it does not feel right if that is the case of what is happening right now, given all of the issues surrounding the Cottonwood Heights Police Department. And now we're writing how lovely it is for our benefactors to provide lunch and dinner or breakfast to people. I question that and wonder how deep-seated that might go.
All right, thank you for your comments, Ed. I know our city manager takes note of these and will respond. Do we have anyone else in the queue? Paula? Okay, last call.
Paula, you're muted. Is there anyone else? I'm not hearing-
I've got the queue listed up as well. I'm watching it, so I saw two that showed up.
Raven James.
I cede my time to my mother, Tiffany James.
Good evening. Our family would again like to raise our deep concerns at the City of Cottonwood Heights, to include the mayor who's not here tonight, the city manager, and all of the council members and other officials sitting before us, are taking no action to discourage the open harassment and targeting and chronic use of excessive and lethal force, and the cooperation with hate groups like the UCA by the CHPD. I understand there are some good cops and there are some bad cops, but we seem to have a tipping point in our policing community and our community at large, where we do need attention to this matter and not just lip service. Unfortunately, consequences of taking no action is a clear message that you all condone these actions and you're encouraging and inciting them in our community at large. This encouragement was made really during our last council meeting, where a number of council and community members, councilmen, I couldn't believe it, disparaged both Councilwoman Bruce and our family for calling into question the city's lack of procedures to check the clear abuse of both municipal and police power. There was no effort to intervene by the mayor or anyone else to control it during the meeting. It was like watching the debate, the presidential debate. From Lieutenant Bartlett's mother who got on and got hysterical to rant about a flag that was burned, to her neighbor, John Hammond, who complained profusely about the disruption to his family's privilege by our family's request to have the illegal shooting of our son investigated further. During John Hammond's comment, he complained that our family's not taking accountability for son's actions that could not be further than the truth. Not only have we taken accountability, but Zane certainly did when he was alive. This is not something that John or anyone else that commented or even council members would even know about. And regardless, the matter at hand isn't about the accountability of our son's behavior. It's about the accountability of our city leaders to fix a broken police system and the social contract that should be about community policing. Now, officers who sit in their cars and don't have any interaction except at publicly staged events, similar to the picnic that was held this weekend. John Hammond is the same man who is having his sons harass our family in public and come to our home to trespass and steal. But we're not surprised by any of this because it is you all on this screen in front of us, with the exception of Councilwoman Bruce, who are leading by example and creating a toxic environment for this community. And it's a city now, I believe, that might need to be reorganized. So again, we're here tonight once more to ask for you guys to look deep into your hearts. Look at August 2nd, look at the shooting of our son, look at the countless stories that have been shared over the last 2 months of community members who have talked about very similar experiences. Look at what's going on in federal court with our case right now. And you need to think about dropping those charges, firing your police chief Russo, suspending the officers who are involved, and conducting a neutral third-party investigation into policies and procedures at your city. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany, for your comments.
Appreciate it.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to make comments at this time?
I have Heather Anderson.
Okay, go ahead, Heather. Heather, if you can hear me, you're muted.
Am I good now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Get past my setup privacy feature things. I don't have anything prepared. I just wanted to listen to tonight's meeting and think on it. and frustrated, extremely frustrated. I'm frustrated with the James family, and I'm sure they'll pop back in here as soon as I'm done. I'm frustrated with Ed Schwartz. I'm frustrated with many who have continually wasted city time over and over again with the same complaints, and those complaints have been addressed.
Heather, can you stay still or something so that the sound focuses on the microphone, please?
Sorry, I'm not
You're just
moving.
breaking up.
I haven't used this laptop before. I'm sorry. I would really ask that those that have been calling in with the same frustrations over and over again, call our city leaders and talk to them and schedule an appointment, and let us use this time to talk about other business that's pressing. For example, the parking situation. I know we've got some issues with some streets going on in our community. There are other things we need to address. Our storm drain system. I have a neighbor that has been flooded 3 or 4 times. I'm not saying that your concerns are invalid in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying I think there's a better time for it, and I would appreciate that this time is used wisely so that we can move forward with all city business. I would like to also thank our Cottonwood Heights Police Department. They have been nothing but amazing for my family of over 23 years in Cottonwood Heights. And I understand that others have complaints, but those complaints do not invalidate the amazing service that I have been able to receive and others in my community have been able to receive. So I think we need to look at things from a more well-rounded perspective and not from a single lens. So thank you for my time. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Heather.
I have Debbie McIntosh.
Okay,
Hey guys.
go ahead, Debbie.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to call in, and I'm sure the city is aware of a street that is on just off of Bridgewater Drive. It's called Quarry Hill Circle, and that is so steep that we had neighbors that moved out this last summer. And they had how come it's going double? Anyway, they had to have a moving truck at the bottom of the hill and take a smaller moving truck from their house to the bottom of the hill to load everything up. Otherwise, they don't get high centered, but they get stuck from bumper to bumper. And I'm concerned because there are families that live up there. And if there were to be a fire, I'm concerned about a fire truck going up. So just asking if you guys would take a look at it and see if you can fix it like you did a street just right over by me, Stone Road, I believe it is. So could you take a look at that?
That was, Tim, did you get that circle name? All right.
Yeah, yes, I did.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie. Did you have something else or?
Yes, I just want to say how grateful I am for the police department. I think they've been amazing. I am appreciative of Mike's article that I read today and appreciate that she wants us to be united. Mke, thank you for that. And I appreciate all that you're trying to do to come together to unite our city. So thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Debbie.
I have Sheila Wall.
It's Stephen Wall. It's Stephen Wall for on Sheila's computer. I wasn't intending on commenting, but I heard the James comment regarding what happened last week about apparently taking Councilwoman Bruce to task and how bad that seemed to go over from her perspective. what I failed to hear addressed and what we tried to address was the fact that Councilwoman Bruce at the first meeting that we had at Knutson Park indicated that the first thing on her agenda was to address the police department issue. What was troubling and what I brought up last week that we've still yet not to have any response from Councilwoman Bruce is the fact that she had no idea or any information whatsoever about the comparison of funding between Unified Police and our police agency, and that she had been confronted with the facts that clearly militated in the favor financially of maintaining Cottonwood Heights Police. There were the other two issues that were raised as well. So when it's suggested that she was perhaps, by the James account, unjustifiably assailed, I take great exception with that, because for her to sit in this office for 3 years and to not have the information that we dug up in a matter of weeks, just by asking, I repeat, just by asking, and to put this city in the turmoil it's been in for 3 years, assuming that somehow this police department and the budget and the cost to the citizens was exorbitant and exorbitantly unnecessary when compared with our other options, which is simply not true. And the suggestion was, and what I stated, I think unequivocally, is it established clear incompetence. If a council person for 3 years can maintain that it was more effective for us to have unified in here policing versus our own police department, only to find out that not only was that not true, it wasn't even close to being true. And that we've lived with that for 3 years, that uninformed type that is not what I would consider to be taking her to task unnecessarily.
All right, thank you, Steve, I believe it was. Do we have someone else now? Paula?
Yes, I have Kim and Jim Stojak.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, we can hear you. Go ahead.
What I would like to speak with Heather's comments about sitting down and making appointments with the city council and talking about with the police department. We have done that for over 10 plus years. We sat down with Scott Bracken. We sat down with Mike Peterson, with T. Tyler, with Leanne Stillman, with Kelvin Cullimore, and everybody, and Mike Black. And we have told them the harassment and the intimidation that the police department constantly puts on the citizens of Cottonwood Heights. We lived it, we have seen it. I support Tally 100% because she finally is a voice for us of who you people did not listen to. Tim Teeny, we sat in your office last year and we made you aware of what was going on with the Cottonwood Heights Police Department, and you have chosen not to do your job, and you never called us back. Scott Bracken, I have audio of a city council meeting back in 2010 stating that you can go ahead, you need one more liquor license to do the project of the Canyon Center behind the Canyon Inn. Well, that's the distillery, and is that the liquor license that you needed to get from the Canyon Inn? That's what I would like to know. And what I'd like to know is, when is this police department going to be held accountable? That's what I would like to know. And back in the past, when we were trying to get on good terms before the harassment of Cottonwood Heights, we sent Robbie Russo a thank you note for his work one of the times that we needed him at the night. And we sent him 2 certificates for pizza to come in and enjoy. Well, guess what? He sent him back and said, no, we cannot take anything like that. So it's pretty funny how your police department now can take handouts from other restaurants. Things need to be done, and no, we're not going to stop. And I will talk blue in my face, to my face, until this police department is transparable and is held accountable for its actions, and including the government. And you know what? We wouldn't be in this position that we're in right now if you guys would have done your job in the first place. That is all I have to say.
All right, thanks, Kim.
I have Mke and Shelly Hanson.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
Hey, thanks for letting me chime in tonight. I had some difficulty last week, and I appreciate the opportunity as a citizen to be able to stand up and to talk to you. One of my concerns is that after we're echoing really bad here. I don't know why. After the meeting last week, Mayor Peterson allowed council members to chime in on what they thought about a petition that was presented. And essentially, I feel like our council person, Bruce, just took that petition and threw it over her shoulder and put that behind her and acted like it was a piece of fodder that meant nothing. And I do have to say, quite to the contrary, it did mean a lot. I was one of those people that signed on that. I would challenge Councilperson Bruce to set up a town hall meeting on a good day of the week at City Hall outside. We could all socially distance and wear our masks and have the opportunity to have her address all the things that she said were false. I know Councilperson Peterson, he asked if there would be some fact checking going on over some of the comments were made. And I do know that there have been some people that have taken some time to look through that process as well. So that's a challenge I'd like to put out there. Also, I'd like to address Mr. James about a picnic that we had Saturday. I was able to attend and I thought it was pretty amazing. Citizens of our city, over 100 of them, attended a picnic because we appreciate our police. We appreciate our those that stand in front of us and help us and put their lives on the line for us. We're able to sing, we were able to eat, we had some good prayer. It was a great event with absolutely no opposition, and I am grateful that we have a community where we can gather like this. Again, take the challenge and let's get together and talk about the reasons why you just want to throw away a petition, Council Bruce. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Mike. Next.
I have Larry Turner.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Larry.
Last time you met, I tried to talk. My equipment wasn't working. Just like to bring up a few things. First of all, I want to mention something about our first responders, the fire department. My wife had to go to the hospital on a Sunday, ER, and they came over with the big truck, and they came over with the big ambulance, and about 8 guys, and she was delighted that those young, handsome men got her out of bed and put her on a gurney and took her into that fancy ambulance and got her there in about 10, 15 minutes. It wasn't life-threatening, but she couldn't get out of bed without help. So those first responders were there in less than 4 minutes from the time we called. Oh, that was amazing. I don't know what your relationship is with the fire department in Cottonwood Heights, but I've got nothing but positive things to say about that. And it's happened. I've had them come by before, and it's the one on Fort Union in our district. They did a wonderful job. Also, I was at the picnic rally or whatever you want to call it Saturday, and it was a wonderful experience. I'll tell you, it's nice to see people come together in a positive way. There was a lot of people there that were, I guess, worked as policemen, some were in uniform. I don't know if all of them there, you know, some of them were or weren't. But there were some family members that were there that are out there with children. And that was nice to meet the families. You know, we have to remember when we're talking about these people, like the firemen or the police, that, you know, there's regular people too, like we are, and the council members are too. And that must needs to be opposition in all things. It's how we handle the opposition. It's not that there isn't. It's okay to have opposition as long as it's handled properly. So my thoughts are that we come together and solve problems and use our brains instead of our emotions. And you can't take emotion out of this, but I'm confident with the way we have our government set up, and my experience with the police department over the years has been fantastic. And I have no criticism. I know these people are not, I don't know them, any of them as friends, but I can tell you one thing, more than one time, they've come to help me and people in my community around my street. And I appreciate all they've done. There's conflict, that's okay, but that's to be expected. But let's not go overboard and start calling people names. Emotions, stay with the facts, and have a positive atmosphere. Change.
Right.
I'm sure we can do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Larry. All right, I don't see anyone else in the queue. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand quickly, and then, okay, thank you.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
You know, okay, thanks. I don't really have anything prepared. To Heather's comment, I am feeling like a broken record. I have reached out to members of the council, Tim Tingey, Mike Peterson, police department, you name it, I have tried. You know, last week, or the last council meeting session, there was the childish attack from Scott Bracken and Doug Peterson on Tally Bruce. And it just kind of said a lot to me and why we are getting nowhere with working with Cottonwood Heights as a city to figure out how to solve the problem of the police corruption and the attack that I witnessed on August 2nd. The way that you guys spoke about Tally Bruce in front of a council meeting was appalling. And I guess it's a shame to see such a whole dirty organization, I guess. I'd just like to see the police be held accountable for what happened on August 2nd. I'd like the harassment and intimidation to stop. But I think I'm realizing that the problem is bigger than just the police, that there are some very nasty counterparts in the city council and I guess the city offices. And I guess that's all I've got to say tonight.
All right, thank you for your comments, Hayden.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
we'll
don't
give it
show
just
any other hand.
right. We'll give it a couple more seconds, another 5 seconds or so. If someone wants to speak, raise their hand. Okay, seeing no new people for public, citizen comments, we will close that section of the meeting. The next item on our agenda is another public comment period about some changes to our outdoor lighting ordinances. I'll have invite Mike Johnson to give everyone a brief synopsis of those changes and then open it up for public comment.
Councilmember Bracken, real quickly. I just wanted to, and I failed to do this right at the beginning of the meeting. Assistant Chief Riley Pilgrim is not here tonight because he has been sent to California and he's assisting with those fires. He wanted me to make sure you all know he's there. He was going to try to get on the meeting, but he's very busy tonight with some of the issues and logistics with that. I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget that.
No, we certainly excuse him, and I hope that I did excuse the mayor. I hope that no one was confused about that. If you could pass on that one comment about Station 110's response as well. All right, Mike, if you would take a minute or so and let us know on the lighting ordinance, the outdoor lighting ordinance.
Sure, happy to. Thank you. This is pretty simple. This is a technical amendment. Really covering up fixing a typo. Paula, do you mind muting your microphone?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Thank you.
All right, go ahead. Try again.
All right, this is a minor technical amendment, really fixing a typo or an oversight in the recently adopted outdoor lighting ordinance. You can see the extent of the amendment on the screen here. Within that new ordinance, there's an applicability section. This ordinance is meant to apply on residential properties as well as commercial properties, with actually slightly different requirements for commercial over residential. They're all detailed in the ordinance. It's always been the intention that these standards would apply in commercial areas. I think when staff handed over the final ordinance to be codified, it was an outdated copy, or I don't actually know, but it had a line in there that seemed to make this apply only in a single family zone. Again, that's not the intention, so we're here tonight to strike that out and make sure it's clear this ordinance applies everywhere. This has been through Planning Commission. There were no public comments. There was a unanimous recommendation of approval. And luckily we caught this. No commercial projects have come in and slipped through the cracks on this. We noticed this in time, so we're going to get it resolved and move forward as intended.
All right, thank you, Mike. With that being the case, I'll open up. If someone has a comment on this specific item, please raise your hand, and Paula will allow you to enter the meeting to comment on the outdoor lighting ordinance amendment. Okay, still seeing none. Then I will close that item for public comment. I'm glad we were able to catch that, Mike, in time. Item number 5 is another chance for public comment. This has to do with a rezone of a piece of property at 6632 South Highland Drive. I'll ask again, Mike Johnson, if our planning director, if you would give us a brief overview of that and the history with the Planning Commission.
Yes, thanks again. This is a request for a zone map amendment at 6632 Highland Drive. This is just south of the city boundary on Highland Drive. You can see it highlighted on the screen here. It's a 0.23 acre single family property along the Highland Drive frontage road there, just south of I-215. The request is to rezone this property from R18, which it is today, to RO, which is residential office. So you can see the context there. This is the zoning, the screen that you can see most of right now. So zoning is the law as it applies today and what the property is allowed to be used for today. You can see there is quite a bit of residential office to the south of this property. Those were rezoned over the past 5 years or so and redeveloped as medical and dental office buildings primarily. So the request here is to rezone this piece on the north. There are still 2 properties being used as single family parcels. I will say staff has talked to people representing those parcels about options. Nothing formal has come in yet, but discussions have been had. Let's see, this is the land use, oh no, yeah, this is the land use map. So this is the general plan, the long range designation, not necessarily the law as it applies today, but the long range vision for land use in the city. The subject property is up here at the top of the screen. It's a residential office land use designation, along with the rest of the properties along the Highland Drive frontage road there to the south. I believe this change to the general plan was made around 2009. The city came up with this residential office concept as a good land use type and development type that buffers busy streets from residential neighborhoods. So kind of low scale development, substantial setbacks, building heights that don't exceed what a house could be built at, that kind of thing. So the general plan supports the request, and again, the properties, these highlighted here, have come through this process in the last handful of years and been successful in rezoning and then redeveloping those properties. You can see adjacent land uses there. This is just a smaller context of what I just showed, so I'll move on. This is the property as it exists today. While the rezone doesn't guarantee a specific use for the property, the applicant stated in their application and in their narrative that they intend to use the existing residence as a bed and breakfast with a tenant that would act as an attendant for that bed and breakfast, an employee essentially. So a fairly low scale use. Again, though, if this property is rezoned and that's approved, they will be allowed to apply for any use that's allowed in the residential office ordinance. I covered this, but the general purpose of that RO zone is to provide a kind of a buffer type of land use development between a busy street or a busy corridor and residential neighborhoods. So again, you see, typically fairly low impact business uses or your standard 9 to 5 type uses where there's not a lot of traffic in evenings and on weekends. Example uses allowed in the zone, residential, office, medical, standard medical clinics, art studios, daycares, that kind of thing, and bed and breakfast is one of those. Every use in the RO zone is a conditional use unless you want to build a single family residence. But I just wanted to illustrate the setbacks and some of the development requirements when you're adjacent to single family residential uses. And this is in the case that they come back and decide they don't want to do a bed and breakfast and want to do something else. They're subject to pretty strict setbacks. So you can see it illustrated on the right hand here. You've got pretty substantial setbacks on all sides of the property, greater setbacks than those that you could find even in a typical single family zone. And then other requirements for lighting and landscape buffers and fences and things like that. And that would all apply to new development. And again, any use would come back through the conditional use process with the Planning Commission. So the rezone would happen, and then before that single family residence can be used as anything else, it would have to go through another public hearing with the Planning Commission, which is what that slide highlights. The staff has recommended approval be based on the previous rezones that have taken place in the area, and the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval. To address the comment that was submitted to the council, I believe earlier today, a lot of the concerns raised in that email involve traffic and impact to the neighborhood and that kind of impact of the actual use on the property. Again, that's something that's dealt with generally by the Planning Commission. We don't know exactly which use is going to be pursued there. If it's the bed and breakfast as the applicant has indicated, then we will ask them to analyze the impact of that use. That would include a traffic study showing where traffic is going, making sure we're preserving the neighborhood street on the north there. We don't want a lot of business to creep into the neighborhood, making sure they're using that commercial street on the frontage road. We would address things like lighting concerns. We would address fencing and buffering and any impact to the area. Conditional use allows the Planning Commission to impose conditions on a project if those conditions resolve a potential negative impact. So that's what that next step of the process is for. But we don't know exactly what the impact is until we know exactly what the use is. And then the comment on some of the maybe code violations or nuisances on the property. It's fairly common at the site plan approval process or the conditional use process. One of the conditions of approval on almost every development is that the site is free of all nuisances and code violations prior to final approval of any new use. So that would be covered in the next step as well. That's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
No, thank you for that and for the discussion earlier in our work session. I would open it up for any member of the public that wishes to comment in respect to this zone change. Just raise your hand on the thing and we'll admit you to the meeting for comment.
Councilmember Bracken, while we're waiting for someone, if they raise their hand, I just want to read into the record, so it's part of the record, that we did get a comment that was sent out to all of the city council members. It was about this item, and that's what Mike was referring to as he answered the questions. This is from Elizabeth Nelson. She lives on Meadow Drive. And for the record, we'll include this as part of the record, but we've sent it to all of you as part of the comments a little while ago.
That'll be in the minutes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I am not seeing anyone expressing an interest in commenting on that. We have see one now.
I believe this is the applicant.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if I needed to say anything, but yeah, if anybody is listening needs any questions or anything answered, for sure. We do intend to probably do the bed and breakfast. The other owner with me is an insurance agent. We've talked about that possibility as well. So we really have no immediate plans, but just wanted to rezone and start kicking the can down the road. And that's it. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to comment on this item at this time?
I have a quick question. I don't know why it's feeding back on me, but how has the responses to the businesses that have been located there, how's that been received over time? How's that been received in the scheme of things as far as the different businesses that have been there? It seems like it's been fairly low key along there, the businesses that I've both gone to and the people I know that might own those. Has that been a fairly positive thing for the neighbors, or is there a lot of feedback on those other entities that have been impacted by that?
Yeah, I think, thanks for the question. Certainly, as we've gone through this process and the development process, that particularly the first one, which I believe was the Cottonwood Dental Office, that that generated a lot of public interest. It was something very different than the homes that were there before. I think there was acknowledgement that some of the more rundown residences and getting those out of there was a good thing, but some of the impacts to we always hear traffic as a concern and that impact, and we look at that closely. And then some of the development impacts like fencing and lighting, they seem to be the two big things that come up continuously. We ran into quite a few concerns even after approval and construction of the Cottonwood Dental building. But I feel like we're in a pretty good place with those at this point. The single story building on the corner, there weren't as many concerns there just because the vertical impact was much less. And then with the new one, which is a medical office, we took what we learned in those previous applications, and I think we're able to really mitigate those concerns pretty well, where we have a higher fence than you see elsewhere that really buffers the visual impact, and then site lighting that doesn't exceed the height of that fence. So those lighting concerns have been really mitigated. I don't know. We always hear traffic is a concern, and that intersection is tricky, and I'm sure that's the case at 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. But I think the process has gotten much better as those properties have developed, and I think the last one, the medical center, at least from my perspective, was a very smooth process.
And I guess I could challenge you, Doug. I know when we were discussing the RO zone, a lot of it had to do specifically with this area. And I know Councilmember Thomas back in the day and really worked hard with the residents, and there was a lot of discussion going back and forth on what really should happen. And I think a lot of the RO zone came out of that back and forth and the negotiation with those neighbors. I guess I could challenge you. Maybe you can put together a town hall meeting with just those neighbors and find out how that is now, 5 or 10 years later, whatever it is. But it has changed the Highland Drive view side of that road. I've allowed those properties to develop. And I'm hopeful that as Mike Johnson has said, that that's been mitigating towards the neighborhood behind. I know there's a couple potential residential offices up Bengal and other locations in the city. And so I hope that concept does work as envisioned.
I'm sure the vertical loss of any view would be difficult for those that are looking to the east. But
Yeah.
I think hopefully the process is, refining each time we have a issue. And I think that'd be good information to get from those individuals to see if there's anything that we can do. It sounds like the fencing and the lighting, like Mike mentioned, are two things. But I think that whenever you're on facing that used to be, correct me if I'm right, wasn't that Highland Drive at one time? Is that right?
Before my time.
I think it used to be, and then it became a frontage road. But if not, I know that it's tough to be in a main corridor, but we need to try to mitigate any of those problems. It sounds like we've been attempting to do that over the years.
All right, Mike, the only other comment I would make is that intersection is weird 24/7, not just at 8 and 5. I don't know if there's, that would be an engineering challenge to try to get that odd type of an intersection fixed. It would be nice if we could, but that's a discussion item for another day. With no other commentors having raised their hand, I'll close that public comment period. And we can move on to our action items. First is consideration of ordinance 344, which is the amendment to the outdoor lighting ordinance. We discussed that in the work session. We also had our public comment period just a few minutes ago. Are there any other questions or concerns from the council on this action item or a motion? Someone will have to unmute.
I can take this one. I move that we approve ordinance 344.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Michael and seconded by Councilmember Bruce. Oh, geez. This is where not doing this all the time gets in the way. All right. I will call for the vote. Councilmember Michael.
Yes.
Councilmember Bruce.
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. All right. Our next item is ordinance 345, which is actually enacting the rezone again on the item that we just had public comment on a few minutes ago. Are there any comments or questions from the council on this item?
I guess I just had one question. Based on the setbacks that Mike Johnson showed, it seems like there's similar buildings to what we see to the south likely couldn't be erected here. Is that right, Mike?
Not unless they assemble multiple parcels, and then those extra parcels went through the rezone process first. On a single lot now, they couldn't do anything approaching that.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve resolution 345.
I second that.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Bruce and seconded by Councilmember Peterson. We'll call for the vote. Councilmember Peterson. If you said something, you were muted. You'll have to try again.
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Bruce.
Yes.
Councilmember Michael.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. That passes. The second to last item on the agenda is consideration of resolution 2020-48 about certain surplus property. Scott Jurgis, you have a short description of what this entails.
Yes, let me pull it up super quick. So we have this listing of items. It continues on to two pages. It's predominantly desktops or laptops that are older in nature and not up to date in terms of functioning in our system. There's a handful of power strip surge protectors, monitor stands, tree stands, an older printer, and a letter folding machine that are included in that. And then I'm going to stop share on this and share this. So then we have 3 vehicles and an equipment trailer that are recommended to be surplused that were utilized by various divisions of the city but aren't used anymore. And so we would recommend that these as well be surplused. That's all I have.
All right, and for the public's information, these go through an auction house, so there's no preferential treatment given to anyone as far as who actually gets to purchase them. Funds from the proceeds of that auction minus a small commission are put back into the general fund. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We utilize an auction house that has been set up by the state through a bidding process, and they take care of all that for us.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from the council or comments or a motion?
I move that we approve resolution 2020-48.
Second that.
All right, moved by Councilman Peterson, seconded by Councilmember Bruce. We'll call for the vote. Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
Councilmember Bruce.
Yes.
Councilmember Michael.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. All right. The last item on the agenda is a consent calendar of minutes from September 1st and the 15th. Do I have a motion on the consent calendar?
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
I second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Here, any opposed? I heard 4 yeses, so, or ayes. All right, then I would entertain a motion. Excuse me. We get right down to the end and you get tongue-tied. Would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Thank you.
I second that.
And thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, have a good couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks, good job.
Thanks, Scott. Good job tonight.